All right, welcome to the W2W review. I am the Oakland Knight, and joining me today in the LA studios is Raider Pirate. What's going on, Pirate?
What's going on, Raider Nation?
All right, Raider Nation. In segment 1, we're going to go over the offense, and in segment 2, we're going to go over the defense. But before we get started, I just want to throw it out there one more time that we are looking for an alternate for this show, the W2W review. We're going to be doing some auditions. If you're interested in becoming a part of the Will to Win as an alternate, please email us at thewtw@gmail.com. That is thewtw@gmail.com. You will need a few things. You're going to need 2 devices. You're going to need a phone and something to record on, and you're going to have a decent backdrop, whether it's a plain white wall or an office-type setting, so it looks a bit professional. And if you have all those criterias, please email us once again at thewtw@gmail.com. All right, Pirate, without any more wasting time, let's jump into this. What do we got on offense today?
Yeah, so as usual, the Raiders did a fairly good job on offense. Same sort of problem with third down conversions, unfortunately. They were only 5 of 13. But if you look at the Tennessee Titans, they were 2 of 12, so we'll get into that in the second half. But once again, 5 of 13 on third downs. We've got to do a better job of converting those third downs. We had 13 passing first downs, 4 rushing first downs. So again, it was pass-heavy, Crabtree coming up big. We had a total of 61 plays for 368 yards, 12 total drives, 245 yards passing. Again, Derek Carr was 21 for 35, 6.8 yards per attempt. He had the 1 interception, and he was sacked once. Rushing 123 yards, which is pretty good. Again, running by committee. 25 rushing attempts, about 4.9 yards per carry. And we were 1 for 1 in the red zone, which was big against this particular defense. We had 8 penalties, though, 58 yards. Again, we've got to cut down on the penalties. And the turnover via interception, which Derek Carr has been doing a great job. But, he does get the 1 interception. We did not control the time of possession, 29 minutes to 30 minutes and 57 seconds by Tennessee. Pretty close. I mean, the fact that we had 3 turnovers and the game was as close as it was and we couldn't score in the second half is the only downer that I have on the offense. I thought we came out at halftime and had some very suspect calls. And then throughout the game, we didn't score from the half. So, 17 first downs on offense to 19 by Tennessee. But like I said, once again, I think the penalties, the false starts, the fact that we couldn't score at all in the second half, and the turnover were the only negatives coming out of this game.
Absolutely, and I want to reiterate, too, that I always said that we can't expect this offense to put up 30 a game. However, when you look at this game, all the opportunities were there. We should have scored another 30 this game. So this offense is really explosive, and I think you're going to see that in the time of possession battle week in and week out. The fact that we move the ball through the air very well and get yards in chunks is going to dictate some of that time of possession problems. And then defensively, which we'll get into in the second half, we got to do better at stopping the run. That will help our situation out as well. But at the end of the day, when you look at what this offense actually did wrong yesterday, the thing that sticks out to me the most is the penalties. It's a given when you go on the road, you're going into a hostile environment. It's pretty loud. You're going to have some issues across the offensive line, but they need to be more disciplined. I mean, it's part of the game. When you go on the road, you have to be more prepared for that. I think they'll correct that as we move forward. But 58 yards in penalties, 8 penalties for 58. I think we did an actual better job than the Titans did on penalties for once, so that was nice to see. Then there was the drop passes. And, outside of those 2 things for me, I think this offense played outstanding once again. There were some drop passes like we talked about, but again, this offense can score from anywhere. You brought up a great point yesterday. We have 4 90-yard drives for scores this season already. That's the amount that we had all last year. This offense continues to show its power in the air, but now we're developing a run game. 123 yards yesterday. You kind of look at that and say, well, that's average. But, we were doing so well in the passing game, you go with your strength. So the fact that we're able to use this running back by committee and rack up 100-yard games on a more consistent level thus far, already 3 games into it, is just going to help this offense grow, man. So, we got to buy some time, let the defense, work its little issues out, and then we can compete and beat anybody because this offense is showing its ability. It's high-powered. I like to see a little bit more out of the running game. I think I like for us to be a little bit more consistent with that. But we're going over 100 yards per game right now, so I'll take it all day. Your thoughts, Pirate?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, DeAndre Washington, 6 carries, 57 yards. He had about a 9.5 yard per carry, but that was because of the big 30-yard run. Latavius Murray, 10 carries, 37 yards. Again, you take the 22 yards away from the 37 yards, and you've got 9 carries for 12 yards or something like that. Jalen Richard, 6 carries, 28 yards. You take the 10 yards away from there, that's 5 carries for 18 yards. So, again, we're getting little chunks, and then we're getting some big plays, which is, what this offense sort of, really, really needs in order to be well-rounded. Once you look at the amount of people that Derek Carr is throwing the ball to, spreading it all over the field, and then you think to yourself, okay, DeAndre Washington, Richard, or Latavius Murray at any point can take it to the house, much like we saw the other, Murray doing on the Tennessee sideline, kind of getting through there and gashing, for 30-yard runs and things like that. We have that capability in the backfield this year, which we didn't have last year. We haven't had for a while. These 2 young backs, again, like I said, if you take away the big runs, if you take away the 30-yard run from 57, you're talking 5 yards, 5 attempts for 27 yards. That's not quite a 9.5-yard average. If you take away Murray's 22-yard game, again, you're looking at about 9 carries for 15 yards. That's a very poor average. And if you take away the 10-yard run from Richard, you're looking at 5 carries for 18 yards. Small little chunks the majority of the time. But then if you combine those long runs, this is the exciting part. If you combine that, you're looking at 62 yards and 3 runs. So that's about a 20-yard per average carry. So I really like this running back. I think, Latavius Murray is probably the weakest link here, but he serves a purpose in this backfield. To say the least, because of his blocking and his veteran leadership, things of that nature. So, and then again, the offensive line, shout out to Vidal Alexander. I mean, they went in and they realized, hey, we can't have this happen again next week. Let's get the kid ready to play so we don't have to do massive shuffling. I thought the offensive line did a fantastic job. Sure, they gave up a sack, but that's going to happen. They were pretty stout. Otherwise, Michael Crabtree balling out, 12 yards per reception, 8 catches for 102 yards. Amari Cooper, again, a lot of drops, a few drops, targeted 9 times, came up with 4 catches, 62 yards. Seth Roberts, again, some drops. Walford, some drops, but those guys are contributing as well. Andre Holmes, take a look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different players with the reception or at least targeted. I think Jameis Olawale didn't have a reception, but he was targeted. So 10 different players that Derek Carr was throwing the ball to. You sprinkle in a running game with that can be effective. It can break some plays. And a quarterback that's smart and understands and is a leader, and you're looking at a very difficult offense to defend.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate on the offense in the running back position, I think the biggest problem that I have, and it's not even that big of a problem, is I like the running back by committee. I mean, you look around the league, a lot of people use it. I mean, we saw it yesterday, right, with Murray and Henry. But a lot of these teams, they run about 2 running backs. You got your primary back and then your complementary back. We're running 3 guys, so we got fresh legs in there consistently, and I like that. I do. I like that. It's not so much. It shows that they're about the team and not about the individual, because they could easily just run Washington and Murray or Richard and Murray or Washington and Richard. So I look at it as it would be nice to see them kind of settle on a primary 2, but then I think that we could lessen our opportunities that way. If you have three, use three, and that's what they're doing. But I think the individual numbers would be higher if these guys could get into a better rhythm. But again, it's working, and Latavius Murray is the weakest link. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's producing where we need him to produce. And like I said yesterday, I'd like to see Murray more late in games. And then obviously he's been excellent this year. If there's anything that he stood out on for me this year is he's been really, really efficient inside the red zone and goal line situations. So again, Murray definitely does have a role on this football team. I don't want everybody to think, oh man, you guys just hate Murray, don't you? No, I just want the best for this football team. And when you look at this team in the running back position right now, the best production that we get on a consistent basis is from Washington and Richard. Either one, they've all had their moments. They, both those guys share opportunities. If one's not producing, the other one is. So, I mean, that's a good problem to have. So if we're critiquing something, which is what we do here, is we're going to critique the good, the bad, the ugly. We could talk smack about our running backs all day. They're producing. We have the best running game that we've had in years. So trust me when I say I have no problem with this running back core. In fact, it's really opened up this offense. It's really making us a juggernaut for defenses. They can't focus on Cooper. They can't focus on Crabtree. The more they spread themselves out to the outside, we're going to gash them up the middle. If they want to put 8 in the box, they already know Carr's going to hit these guys on a consistent basis. So, I mean, once again, this offense is on its way to being very high productive style of offense that's going to win us a lot of football games. Your final thoughts on the offense, Pirate?
Yeah, I mean, I take the opposite side. I'm down on Murray. I don't like Murray. I'm not going to be politically correct. I say go with the best players, the guys that are going to, present you with the best chance to win. If we're looking at Seth Roberts as opposed to Michael Crabtree or Amari Cooper, obviously Crabtree and Cooper are going to get the nod. I've never been a Murray fan. I think he had a great run. I was hopeful for him, but for me, like I said, he just looks uncomfortable. He looks indecisive. He jumps around too much. He runs into people. He doesn't hit the hole very fast. He doesn't have power for his size. He has decent speed, but he just brings, in my opinion, I think you take those 10 carries and you give those 10 carries to the two kids, and we're going to have a lot more rushing yards, and it's going to be dynamic. I don't hate Murray. I mean, it's not something where I'm just like, bench him, get rid of him, cut him. I just think that, he shouldn't be getting the majority of the carries. You look at it, he's got 10 carries. The two kids combined have 12 carries. Alawale got a carry. In my opinion, like I said, I just think you put all of the dynamic pieces on the field at the same time, and you force teams to try to make up for that. You put your team in the best position to win, and therefore, I just, like I said, I don't care what other people say. I look at it, I analyze it myself, and my opinion is that Latavius Murray is the third best running back on this team. I don't know why they come out and start him, and I don't know why they had him in there in the fourth quarter. Run him somewhere in the middle, run him at the beginning of the half and into the third quarter. But I say if we're down or we need to score some points, put the kids in there, because these guys they're just being shot out of a cannon, and I think they give us the best chance of, with multiple carries, having bigger and bigger and bigger rushing days. So hate to disagree with all those people out there that are like, stop on Murray. No, not gonna. So that's just it is what it is. You know what I mean? That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
And I'll be on the record to say that I totally agree with you. It's a matter of opinion, and everybody has one. And when it comes to Murray, it's really about, hey, I like Sprite and I like Mountain Dew.
Right.
It's that close right now, and I believe that he has a role in this team. That's my point. He has a role on this football team, whether it's short yardage, goal line, red zone type stuff. But it's more than obvious that Washington and Richard bring more of a dynamic, not only running the football, but it also helps the passing game a tremendous amount more, in my opinion. Just like you, these guys are just more dynamic. They bring a different energy level. They're more decisive. They hit the hole hard. And that's how you wear down a defense. If you're going to wear down a defense, you're not worried about how big the hole is. You're going to choose to go one way, and you're going to hit them before they hit you, and that's how you wear down a defense. And we're getting chunks of yards, so it should not be an issue. And once they get that figured out and iron all those wrinkles out, this offense is just going to take another step forward. So by saying that, man, what makes me the most excited moving forward is that this team has the capability to strike all over the field, no matter where we're at. I don't even sweat, starting at the 10 anymore. I think the opportunities are always there with this receiving core and our explosive running backs. So that's something positive to look forward. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up segment 1. When we get back from break, we're going to dive into the defensive side of the ball and start to take a look at exactly what we saw, the positives and the negatives of the defense. At the end of the day, I think that we could agree that there was a lot more positive when you're comparing it to the first 2 weeks of the season. But we'll get into that in depth after this break. Stay tuned.
Carpets is celebrating the holidays with a huge inventory clearance sale. We have the best prices and guaranteed installation. Why would you buy anywhere else? Whether you're looking for laminate, vinyl, carpet, tile, or wood, we have it all. Save up to 50% on selected items. Room-size rugs, only $69. Visit Carpets at one of our 6 Bay Area locations or call us at 1-800-355-4MMM.
All right, welcome back to the W2W Review. I'm the Oakland Knight, joined by the Raider Pirate. Now we're going to get inside some defensive talk. It's something that, for the first time this season, I'm actually excited to talk about. And as much as I'm excited to talk about it, there's definitely some issues that we got to talk about. So, Pirate, what do you got for us on defense?
Yeah, defensively, again, we allowed 19 first downs. Basically 10 of them on the ground and 9 of them through the air. So we were an equal opportunity sieve in terms of giving up first downs. We did on third down, we did a decent job this week. So again, the Titans were only 2 of 12 on third down. So that's something that we talked about. We needed to see them stopping teams on third down. And they did that this week, which, like you said, is very exciting. 2 for 12. And then we were able to stop them on fourth down. So the Titans, though, had 63 plays, 393 total yards, almost 400 yards of offense. So again, much better than 500, but still 393. They had 212 yards passing, 17 for 33, but they did have 2 interceptions, and those were big interceptions. They were drive stoppers. They kept points off the board, whether they be 3 points, 7 points, whatever it was. They stopped points from going on the board. And then they had a sack. But again, from a running perspective, they allowed 181 yards rushing, 29 attempts. They're averaging giving up 6.2 yards per carry. So once again, you don't have to be a math genius to know if you run the ball 3 times at the Raiders, you're probably going to get a first down. So 6.2 yards per rush. They were 1 for 3, though, in the red zone. Again, even though this defense is historically bad, it is really good in the red zone. We're not giving up points in the red zone. However, teams are scoring from outside of the red zone, so that's a problem as well. But in the red zone, when everything gets cramped up, this team seems to know how to play. Good sign, bad sign. Not really sure. So they did have turnovers again. Irvin with the strip, and we recovered the fumble, and then the 2 interceptions, basically pretty big. So, I think all in all, as an overall defense, not getting into the individuals, which we'll get into in a minute, as an overall defense, again, I thought this was a really good game for the defense. They needed it. Sean Smith desperately needed it, like a man in the desert needing a glass of water. Needed to come up with that for his confidence. Carl Joseph being in there really opened up this defense, I think. And again, the adjustments that they made, Corey James, I think 10 tackles. We'll get into. I think James had 7 tackles. Joseph had 10 tackles. So the 2 rookies accounting for like 17 tackles, on the day. A big step forward, I think, for this defense from what we've seen the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. And when I look at this defense, it was kind of like a flashback to last year. It was a lot of bend but don't break, and I'll take that all day. If you look at the way that this game played itself out, And I said it last week, this defense doesn't need to be top 15 at this point. This offense is potent, and they actually rose to the occasion a lot better than they needed to, or that I expected them to, which is a good sign as well, because all I said is this offense only needs the opportunity to get more possessions and have time on the clock to do its thing. And if you go back to what we said in the first segment about the offense, there was a lot of missed opportunities with penalties, the interception, the drop passes. We could have easily scored 30, and this game should have been a blowout. The defense did enough. Now, that's the positive things of it, right? We were able to rebound after 2 weeks of horrible defense and play bend and don't break, which is a step forward. And it gave the offense the opportunity. Now, there's going to be games like that. You're facing a Dick LeBeau defense, so the offense sputtered out. Okay, fine. But the defense continued to battle. And the biggest problem, moving forward, or especially in yesterday's game, was the fact that we gave up the 180 yards rushing, because we just can't allow teams to rush. Once you allow a team, you were mentioned yesterday how they were talking about, most teams that are down by 14, they usually throw the football, and the Titans came out running it. Well, that's because they knew that was a weakness of the Raiders, that they could run on us, and you stay to your strengths. So the Titans did the right thing. They kept themselves close because they were able to run the football. And our secondary was playing outstanding. Big shout out to David Amerson. He's the most consistent defensive player we have on the team, dating all the way back to last year. I mean, the guy just continues. And the most amazing thing about David Amerson is when you look about most aggressive corners like David Amerson will get a lot of PI calls, just because he's always tight coverage. He's always trying to bat the ball down. You tend to get a lot of PIs in those situations. And this guy keeps coming up clean 90% of the time. So, big shout out to Amerson and being able to not only cover receivers, but to be able to break on the ball from behind the receiver and break these up without getting the PIs. I mean, that's huge. That really helps out the secondary. And like you said, Sean Smith needed that interception like a guy in the desert needs water. So, again, I think there's enough positive moving forward that they have something to build on. And a shout out to the Tennessee Titans for running the ball so consistently and not giving up on it, because what you allowed was for us to get that much more film tape of how bad we are at run defense. So it gives us a better look about how many holes we're not fitting, how many times we're letting our safeties have to come up and make tackles. And it'll make it a little bit easier to make the adjustments when you have that much footage of someone running all over you. Your thoughts, Pirate?
Yeah, once again, if you look at it, David Amerson, Sean Smith, they were in for 100% of the defensive snaps. So, those guys balled out yesterday, didn't give up anything. Again, you're playing against Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans. They don't really have a big-time, deep threat or even a big-time, wide receiver, period. They have the rookie. He did a good job, running down the middle of the field. But, Reggie Nelson, Malcolm Smith, Corey James, 96% of the snaps. He was in on 65 out of the 68 defensive plays. So that's, they trusted him in there. Carl Joseph, 90%, in on 61 of in on 61 of the 68 plays. Khalil Mack only in there 82% of the time. So they were rotating him out. Like I said, I think he was gassed yesterday. I think he's just going up against constant double teams. Irvin, Jihad Ward, 71% of the snaps. So he's getting a lot of playing time. So you look at it there and you say, okay, Corey James, Carl Joseph, and Jihad Ward are in there, all three of those guys for over 70% of the defensive snaps. So we're certainly going with some younger players. That shows the adjustments that they made. And then, you take a look at Ben Heaney, was in there for 1 out of the 68 plays. Like I said, use him sparingly. And what was he used to do? Rush the passer. And he almost got there. He almost got to the quarterback, forced Mariota to throw the ball before he was ready. And that created the incompletion. And, we were able to get off the field on third down. So once again, using this personnel in the right fashion. They need to move Khalil Mack around a little bit more. I saw them move him a little bit. But like I said, if you look at the secondary, Smith, Amerson, Nelson, Carl Joseph, those 4 guys were in there for 90% of the plays. The secondary is beginning to gel. They broke it into quarters, like I said, which made it a lot easier for the underneath guys. We still we're still horrible in terms of our body position, our placement, handwork, everything along that defensive line. I don't know what the defensive line coach is telling these guys. I don't know what Ken Norton's telling these guys. I don't know what Jack Del Rio's telling these guys, but I'm watching the tape and I see that these guys are just getting out hustled. Their handwork is wrong. They're getting pushed out of plays. They're just not doing the types of things that a disciplined defensive line does. But even beside that, I think, like I said, the secondary and the linebackers absolutely balled out. And if we can continue and we could just get this line right, which again, in a few weeks from now, we'll have the big cat back into the lineup and things should begin to unfold from there. So, I absolutely liked what I saw yesterday from the defense. We've got to get better. But again, like I said, that starts with the line. And I thought Darius Latham did a good job. I think they're going to be using him much, much more. If you take a look, Latham was in there for 27 out of the 68 snaps. Dan Williams only 19 out of the 68 snaps. So Latham was in there 40% of the time. Williams was in there 28% of the time. And Justin Ellis only 17 snaps. So here's a guy that they started. Right, Ellis was going to be the heir apparent. He was going to take over. He was the guy that they were grooming. This was the guy that they put in there and moved Dan Williams out. And it turns out that Darius Latham, undrafted rookie, when they make their defensive changes, ends up being in there on 27 of those snaps. So that's pretty big. We had rookies at all three levels in this particular football game.
Okay, hold on. Breaking news. All right, this just in. Via Ian Rappaport, Marcel Reece has just been released. Marcel Reece has just been released from the Raiders. Pirate, your thoughts?
Wow. Hey, hang on a second. Let me look it up. Go ahead and.
All right, Raider Nation. All right, wow. So breaking news via Ian Rappaport. Marcel Reece has just been released from the Raiders. Wow, what a shocker. Kind of caught off guard here. I really don't know what to say. This is something that I talked about in the offseason that I felt like maybe we didn't need him. But once the season rolled around and we kept him on the roster, I thought for sure there would be a place for him. Quick thought going in. I know there's going to be a lot of the Raider Nation who's going to be upset by this move, because he's been the face of the Raiders for so many years now. Grew up a Raider fan, but we can't keep players based off their fanhood. Wow. Man, I'm just trying to get my thoughts together here, Raider Nation. We really haven't utilized him, since Hugh Jackson in 2012. So, my initial thought is still just wow. I'm pretty shocked and pretty amazed that Marcel Reece is gone. Pirates, any thoughts?
Yeah. It looks like Raiders have posted out this was a very tough decision, but we have decided to release Marcel Reece. This doesn't make any sense. I mean, I was just saying the other day, with Marcel Reece coming back, it looks like Tywan Jones is going to be out. They've really been phasing Tywan Jones out. He's a one-dimensional player. Marcel Reece, he could play tight end. He could play fullback. He could, he catches the ball out of the backfield. He could spot you at running back, goal line situation. I guess they're really pleased with Olawale, which was the case last year. Wow, this is a big one. I thought they would at least bring him back and see if he could add a spark to this offense before just outright releasing him. And what does this say, to Michael Rivera, who's been begging for a release or a trade? Reece isn't going to be out there this is a shocker, but Reece will not be out there for very long. There's already some reports coming in. My phone is blowing up here too. It looks like there's some interest from Buffalo because Sanjay Lal used to work with him when he was our wide receiver coach. Really likes him, likes his versatility. But wow, this is kind of a shocker. Like I said, I was almost certain that if anybody was going to get cut, it was going to be Tywan Jones, just because they've been phasing him out. You look at the last game; he didn't even come in to spell any of the running backs, and all he's been doing lately is catching fair catches in the end zone. So wow. Well, it is what it is. You know, we move forward from here.
In fact, I think in pre-production meeting, we kind of had the conversation about Michael Rivera, and I was saying how he hasn't even been on the active roster. I know there were some people interested in trading for him. I felt like once Reece was available that they would go ahead and pull the trigger on Rivera, but it looks like they've just decided to move on from Reece. And I'm a little shocked because of his versatility. I think he could have been an added weapon. But once again, we're looking at an offense that's averaging almost 30 points a game. I know we had a little bit of a down week this week, but we got plenty of weapons on this football team with the addition of Washington and Richard, a combination of Rivera, Walford, our wide receivers. It's just, let's open up the spot and maybe bring in some defensive help. I'm still in shock. I know the one thing that everybody needs to understand, because I know there's a lot of the Raider Nation that's going to be like, oh, he was Mr. Raider, he was like the Tim Brown of this new generation. And like I said, as much as I even appreciate Marcel Reece and like what he's brought to the table, we've misused him since 2012, and we cannot keep a player based off his fanhood. We got to make the right decisions. An older player that was misused. I guess the only thing that I have left to say, Pirate, is, once a Raider, always a Raider, and I wish nothing but the best for Marcel Reece moving forward.
Yeah, and what about Hugh Jackson? I mean, we outright released him, which means that he can go wherever it is that he wants to go at this point. Now, again, the rosters for most teams are already set, but when you get a guy that could come in and potentially be another weapon that you've had great success with in the past, imagine George Atkinson III, Terrell Pryor, and Marcel Reece all on the Cleveland Browns, again, moving into the future. So what a shocker. We certainly didn't expect this. We were running a little bit late today. It's a good thing that we were because, this thing just comes across the wire. So that is, it is what it is. Like I said, I guess they figured, this team has so many weapons now, and it's like you said, it's like we've both talked about for a long time. This was a good player on an average football team. Now we've got some great players on a good football team. And the fullback is not the emphasis, I think, of this offense. I guess they kind of looked at it and they thought, you know what, Walford is developing. We've got all these guys that could catch the ball out of the backfield. We've got wide receivers. I guess they just figured, we've got a replacement for Menelik, who's younger, is going to be cheaper. Like I said, you just got to think right now about Michael Rivera and what he's got to be thinking. Here I am begging to be released. This guy wants to come back and be part of the team. And what about the connection to Mark Davis? I mean, this is one of Mark Davis's boys, right? So, what does this say about that?
Correct.
Wow.
It speaks volumes. I mean, I'm really to the point where I'm just trying to figure out, what the Raiders are exactly thinking here. It just came through. So let's just say this for now. We got a lot of talent on this football team. Sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for. We want more of a power running attack. We've been utilizing more of a power running attack, not using the fullback as much. And Marcel Reece is just expendable at this point, where sometimes we run a fullback, sometimes we don't. We don't need two fullbacks on this team. That would be his primary position moving forward. Outside of that, he would be a backup tight end. But, as we've talked about endlessly, we got plenty of tight ends on this roster. So it's just a guy that's missed the first 4 games. This offense is gelling and moving just fine without him. Let's free up a roster spot. Let's go find another defender. Maybe it's someone for the middle, or maybe it's a linebacker. That's the only thing I could be thinking. We'll see what the Raiders do. I mean, usually when there's a move like this, it's usually followed up with a signing of somebody. So let's keep an eye out on that as we move forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right, Raider Nation, that's going to wrap up the show for today. Just know that we will be here tomorrow, and we'll be looking for alternates, so make sure you email us at the w2w@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at the Will to Win. And for the Raider Pirate, I'm the Oakland Knight. A couple of guys that are absolutely sitting here stunned and shocked. But we will see you guys tomorrow. Stay tuned, and yay, Marcel, Reece, stay Raider strong.